it is your buddy, Peace and Harmony, with you here today. Much love going out to all the beautiful, empowered harmonizers. We are zooming in and focusing in a little bit more in depth on how to identify the traits of someone who is a negative or toxic influence, someone who may be really a master manipulator, someone who you might even consider a con man, a con woman, someone who pulled one over on you, someone who is into trickery, someone who is into deception, and really a master manipulator. These individuals are known not only as malignant narcissistic, but when you really get into it, you're talking about a far end of the spectrum called antisocial personality disorder. These people are, even though on the surface, on the outside, they might look very social, meaning they might have a lot of, friends or appears as friends. They might have a lot of dates. They might have a lot of lunches or dinners out. They might seem to be at a lot of parties. They might seem to be very social. But you cannot judge a book by its cover. Someone who is psychopathic is an antisocial, what is known as an intraspecies predator. So you're on the lines of really, what you would, if you can find a parallel in the animal kingdom or the bird kingdom, you're talking about a lion, which is a predator, the king of the jungle. In other words, they prey on other animals. And you can see a parallel here. And you can watch those stories. I mean, it never fails. They talk about the lion who went after the one who was sick, who was weak, who was left behind. And number one of the traits really of someone who is psychopathic is that they will alienate or isolate their targets. And we're going to kind of get back into that in a little bit and how that can provoke people into anger, frustration, loneliness, not feeling heard, represented, and ultimately antagonizing them for their worst and for their own self-sabotage and ruin. So let's just talk a little bit more about psychopathy. Dr. Robert Hare was a great pioneer in this field, and you can study him. Dr. Robert Hare, he describes the Hare checklist with a number of different traits that are indicative of someone who is psychopathic, and he did look at the incarcerated population. So that kind of fits, I think, a lot of the stereotypes that you might hear that are propelled by movies, the psychopath, in music. You might have this image of what someone who is psychopathic is. So all of you, raise your hands if you have this image. Now, the individual you might meet in your family, in your office, in your community, at your book club, at your church, at your doctor's office, wherever, someone who you might, hire as a contractor, you just don't know. You cannot judge a book by the cover. But, someone who is psychopathic, they are an intraspecies predator, which means they will target prey, very much like as a parallel in the animal kingdom. A lion will wait in the tall grass and then scope out a herd or one that has been separated from the herd. It makes them an easy target, and they will go after this individual. It makes for good eating for them. It keeps them sustained. It keeps, that this is just what they do. They are on the prowl. They are on the hunt. And just look at a parallel in the bird kingdom. What are birds of prey? Would that be like an eagle or a hawk? Hawk eyes, an eagle. So just as you can understand, they are looking for prey that they can eat on. So what is an eagle going to eat? A small rodent, a maimed small animal. So now, and what can you think of as in the plant kingdom? Are there any predatory type of growths, like a vine that will strangulate a tree and take away its nutrients, take away its sunlight? So this is, some comparisons. I want to give some analogies so you can begin to get a grasp on the motivation of these individuals, so you can get a handle on what you are dealing with. so you can protect yourself. These individuals will also alienate or isolate others from their support system, whether it's from a family, whether it's from a work group, whether it's from a community, whether it's from a social group that they will always go to. They'll find a wedge and they'll pry them away and have them really relate differently to that source of support and alienate and isolate them from that. And they will do this in a number of and sundry ways to pry them away from the herd. They might have someone literally take you aside and whisper, this person is interested in you. In other words, when they first come on, how did they get you away from the pack? How did they get you away from your rational thinking? How did they get, this bypass of your being centered and focused and your ability to say, no, I don't think so. This is not right. So the intraspecies predator will alienate and isolate. So people kind of lose their bearings, or they are on this sort of thought process which becomes really flawed thinking, fantasy thinking. Whatever is the soft spot, the weak spot, the vulnerability, this is where the psychopath gets in. They have a keen and I would say unique ability to find and know what other people's voids or deep-seated needs are. Oftentimes these are subconscious and they are not at the level of awareness or consciousness of the individual, or they might be sort of underneath it all, but something that they have then sort of shrugged off and ignored. They might be lonely. They might feel unattractive. They might feel unacknowledged. They might feel over the hill. They might not feel like a woman, a man, a athlete, whatever it is. They will then find and then feed those weaknesses. Make you feel that you are protected if you kind of felt unprotected. Give you companionship if you felt very lonely. These people who are always there for you when you thought no one would ever be there for you. Someone who needs you when you never felt needed. Someone who acknowledges you when you never felt acknowledged. Not in the positive sense. We're talking about as a tool of manipulation so that they can get in and get you hooked and sort of pull you around as they please. So if they can alienate you, they can get you away from your support system. So they might even say, let's keep this a secret. Let's keep this between us. All of a sudden, it feels like this is all fun and games. Oh, wow, isn't this wonderful? You don't realize that then it's causing you to not share the story, share the experience, check things out with others. It's planting a seed subconsciously that will keep you in that isolated and detached state, oftentimes which translates into self-abandonment and a sort of severing of ties with yourself, a severing of ties with what you want, what you value, things that you've worked for. So you might be a family person, you might be a saver, you might be a professional, you might have a certain strength, and so they will get in and sort of try to unplug and displace you from identifying that anymore, and instead you begin to identify with the psychopathic way of thinking. The psychopathic way of thinking, which is how they sort of convert others to abandon what is in their own empowerment, to teach them to learn to be helpless, to learn to be hopeless. These are all psychological states that have been well studied and documented in psychology. So it's very important to understand how they will take others away from the crowd that, and then they can maybe then groom it to be that, oh, well, you can stand on your own now. Do you see how they will give you these double entendres, which are projecting a strength when in fact they're trying to project a weakness? And number one, they will then, once you're in this state, they then have a real keen ability to antagonize you and really terrorize you through feelings that they might leave, threats that they're seeing somebody, they're going to go to another job, they're going to go to another family, another relationship, and that they are not there to protect and guide you or to be there in the way that they have stated that they will. And they will antagonize, which means to cause somebody to become hostile. They'll create a bed of hostility or an angered or fearful or freaked out state. Technical term, right? I'm freaking out. I'm having a meltdown. I'm having a breakdown. I am losing my marbles. I'm losing my cool. They will antagonize. I think it's very important to understand the root of meaning of words, because you can see it's the way it's been traced through history. The origin is from the Greek agon, which means to contest, the Greek ant, which means to be against, and then the Greek agonenstial, which is to struggle, which becomes to antagonize or to struggle against. To struggle against, not to struggle with you, to struggle against you. And this can feel like they are struggling with you, when in essence they are struggling against you. When they have double and triple lives, double and triple agendas, double and triple personas or masks. They will take on a shapeshift. They will look different. They will sound different. They will speak differently. They'll use a different vocabulary, a different cadence, a different knowledge base that does not mesh or blend or kind of come together with as you know them to be. So become very aware of and acknowledging how these tactics work to weaken others, so you don't become prey to these interspecies predators. This is your buddy. Peace and harmony with you here today, and I hope that these videos do help. Please share, please subscribe, and for goodness sake, please donate for more great tools, videos, discussion, and support. Do not allow yourself to be separated from the pack or to feel this way. This is a typical manipulation tactic. Do not fall prey. Do not fall for this. Have a beautiful day.